Welcome to another episode of Redesigning Life with Sabrina Soto. I am obviously Sabrina Soto. And this week I have a really exciting guest, Grace Emmons. Grace is a healer and a spiritual coach. And I'll let you introduce yourself. We have some mutual friends together. I'm excited about this conversation, mostly self-serving because I have so many questions for you. But first of all, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I would love, why don't you give our listeners a little bit of a background on who you are, what you do, and what brought you to this moment now?
Yeah, for sure. So I always have trouble deciding what title to use because I am a very multifaceted, multi-passionate woman, but I'm an intuitive coach, an energy healer. I've been featured by Goop and have a worldwide coaching practice now at this point. But really, I studied across all sorts of schools, from getting my master's in clinical psychology from Columbia University to studying with the best in class in astrology, Reiki, and Kabbalah. And what I am really passionate about in life and the movement that I am leading is helping connect women back to a truer, more alive version of themselves and create new chapters of alignment, abundance, and thriving. And so that looks like helping women find alignment in life and business, reclaim their feminine power, turn on their intuition, open up the field of what they think is possible for themselves to really create and design their lives and business to be in a way that aligns with who they came here to be and what they came here to do, the gifts they came here to share with the world. Um, and yeah, I'll pause there for a second.
That's a good intro. I want to talk about the intuition. Last episode, I had a celebrity hypnotist, Sasha, on, and we were talking about trusting yourself and trusting your own voice inside leading you. And I think as women, we have a lot of different things going on in our head because we're juggling so much. And so, how do you tell your clients how to differentiate between following your intuition and fear? So sometimes, if, let's say, for instance, an opportunity comes to me and immediately my body says no because I'm worried, because it's new, because I'm scared. Some people would say, well, my intuition told me not to do it, but that's not intuition, that's fear of the unknown. So, how do you steer your clients into knowing which one is which?
Well, first we determine what your intuitive type is, because I've identified that there are actually 5 key archetypes of how our intuition is communicating with us. Really think of it as your intuition is your own inner language between you and your higher self, God, whatever you believe in. It's like your own direct line to that highest consciousness energy, but it actually speaks through us in different ways in our own, like your own personal inner language. So you have to learn that inner language. But there's 5 key types that I teach people about, and we help find out yours. I actually have a quiz for this. Speaking of that, maybe we'll drop that in for the listeners, but there's actually a quiz to find out what your type is, and then it helps you understand how your intuition is going to communicate with you. Because people talk all the time about gut feelings, gut instincts. That's only one intuitive type that is really going to feel those in a powerful, visceral way. That's our instinctive warrior. And then there's a lot of ways that intuition is communicating that's a lot more subtle. Our dreamy mystic receives intuition through dreams and signs and symbols and seeing the angel numbers and right, like that really like woo-woo side. And then we have our wise sage who receives intuition through just a very clear knowing that's almost impossible to discern from knowledge, and it's real wisdom, right? It's that inner wisdom, and it comes through so grounded and clear. And then we have our visionary channel who, will receive big visions. And that's when people talk about being able to see something intuitively, being able to see your dream life or what you want, that's the visionary channel of intuition. So really, as you can see, and then there's the intuitive healer, who's the empath, and she will feel and sense if something's right, but it's very subtle. It's not necessarily going to be like a clear gut feeling. It might be sensing into if something feels expansive and exciting versus if it feels constricting and contracting. So there's really so much nuance when it comes to understanding our intuition. And I think this is why people get so hung up and stuck. And they say, I don't have intuition. I don't know how to hear from it. It's like, no, you haven't learned how yours communicates with you. And it's a muscle, it's a skill that the more that you are willing to pay attention, to be aware, to want to work to grow your intuition, your relationship with your inner knowing and inner voice and inner guidance, the stronger it gets, just like anything else.
How did you even get into this? I mean, can you tell people like your background and then sort of what even led you to this new career?
Sure. You would never think in what you just heard me say that I started off in graduating from USC with a degree in biomedical engineering, of all things. I started off working in pharma and biotech. I quickly went into consulting and consulting in that industry, and then eventually selling these like really high level programs to pharma companies where I was making like multi-million dollar deals with VPs at pharma companies. And really, like, I had gone into this whole path because I cared about healing and wellness. And I thought, wow, how cool would it be if you could help make medicines for people to fix their diseases and for them to be healthy and well. And I was so amazed by our human body and and consciousness, and that, like, how our immune system works. It's like, it's truly like magic what goes on in our bodies. And I was always intrigued by this idea that our body can heal itself. Our body has the intelligence. Like, if you cut your arm, it heals back up. Your body knows how to do that, right? And, all of the best pharma and biotech drugs, they're actually just, well, the biotech specifically, they're actually just mimicking what our body does on its own. So anyway, that was why I went into that. But then after several years down that path, I realized nothing that I'm doing is helping people be well or better. If anything, I'm part of a problem that is in a lot of ways making people's lives worse. I saw the worst side of that industry. And I really went through my own spiritual journey of self-discovery, of finding out what my highest purpose was in life, my highest path. And
But
it
wait,
totally.
how did you do that? Can you walk us through what that looked like?
Well, it all started with me going in for a Reiki session that I thought was to heal a shoulder pain. And I didn't realize it was going to change the entire course of my life. I had a profound spiritual experience, a transcendent experience. It was like being washed over with this loving energy. I felt like reconnected back to this feeling that I knew I'd felt before, but I couldn't remember when. Now I think it was probably, back when I was with God before I was born. Like it was such a visceral knowing of this oneness that is really the truth of the universe. And coming out of that session, it was like, not only was my shoulder pain gone, but I could see clearly. I was connected back to this grounded sense of self, of authentic, like, oh shit, this is who I really am. At the time, I had been dealing with a lot of anxiety, um, ADHD in my work. I was really like depressed over this bad breakup. And I just totally like came back to, like, I had woken up out of a dream and I was back to me, to feeling
It
good, to
sounds
feeling.
I've done a lot of episodes with people who've done psilocybin. I've actually experienced it myself too. It sounds like the same profound awakening that you would have doing that sort of ceremony.
Yes. So I have also, since then experimented with things and plant medicines and different things for healing, of course, and conscious expansion. You can have that same, it's a, um, it's an expanded state of consciousness, a brush with a higher level of consciousness, the same as plant medicines can bring us there. Energy healing can bring us there as well. So Reiki can bring us to that state. And this was a very powerful experience. It's not like every single Reiki session people are coming out like, with such a profound transformative time. But for me, it was. And I know that happened that way because it was meant to redirect my path. And
Did
because
you
from
have
that
you been
moment,
back to that Reiki? Have you been back to that Reiki healer
I
since?
worked with her. I worked with her for years. She was I would go back and it became a part of my self-care and a part of my healing journey to work with her. But very quickly, like after that first session or so, I said, I know I'm supposed to learn this. I know I felt called. And I knew, and I said, wow, how could that be? Like, there's no way. I had this vision, this idea, and I said, maybe in another life, I would just be a Reiki master and I would live in Topanga Canyon and I would have clients come out and visit me. Maybe in another life I could do that. And I truly meant like I'll reincarnate and do it because it was so far away from what I was doing at the moment, right? And little did I know that that was something I would end up manifesting over the next few years. It led me down this path of my own spiritual study through Reiki, studying under Deborah Silverman in astrology, studying Kabbalah at the Kabbalah Center. And I really just did this deep dive into my own soul blueprint, my own highest calling, understanding what my gifts were that had been stifled. And I'd been so separated from this true sense of myself. And as I began to unravel that, my life began to shift and I began to experience more abundance than I ever had, and more freedom than I ever had, and more joy than I ever had. I eventually made the leap to leave my corporate job and to start out as an entrepreneur. And now I guide women that are in that similar place where they feel kind of stuck. They know they're not on the right path, but they might not even know where they want to go, what they want to do. I have a program to help women that want to move through that spiritual journey themselves. And then I also support spiritual entrepreneurs who are just starting out because I had my own journey of trying to make it work in the world of spiritual wellness, healing, coaching. And it is a wild, wild west out there. Let me tell you,
Yeah.
you start off saying, I want to do this to help people. I don't even care about money. I left a, job making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And I said, I don't even care about that. I just want to do what I'm here to do. And then eventually you realize, wait, what if the path of what I'm here to do is also my most abundant path? What if
Yes.
this path of what I came here to do and the gifts I'm meant to share and the people I'm meant to help and how I'm meant to heal, what if that is actually the way that I'm going to be the most abundant and the unlock to even more abundance than I could have imagined? And it truly has been. So I also help budding spiritual entrepreneurs unlock that next level of abundance in their lives as well.
So, okay, take me back to that because I think there's probably people listening that want to make a huge leap in whatever their new path is. And you even said like, I'll do it in my next life. How did you find the courage? Because at that point, I assume you weren't married.
At that point, so when I started down the path of my studies, I was doing it all on the side. It was like every moment that I wasn't working, I was just studying astrology, sitting on the floor. I studied for my bat mitzvah. I was like in this deep period of spiritual study. And really now, everything I know about astrology, and I do this with all of my clients, we look at their progressed moon in their chart because this tells you it's a 2 to 2.5 year period, and it tells you what your life is going to feel like and kind of the energy of that time. And when I look back at it, and once I learned about this, I was in my progressed moon phase of Pisces. So Pisces is it's the mystic, it's the magic, it's the spiritual. It's like all I wanted to do was bathe in that and live and breathe in it, and that's all I cared about it. And I didn't care about making it into a business. It was for me. It was for the mastery and the wisdom that I would glean out of it. And then, however, there's always going to be this shift when you're ready for something more. For me, it happened to happen right around the time my progressed moon was shifting into Aries. And what is Aries like? Aries is the entrepreneur, the spark, the go-getter, we are the leader. We're going to move and create, and that was when I felt this spark of, ooh, I'm meant to create a business in this. This is meant to be my you know uh, this is my calling, and this is what I want to make my life about. So sometimes if you feel that there's like an energy building, that you're ready for a change, ready for a shift, there could be real reasons why, or at least things we can look to give some information of what's going on. And that happens all the time through our life, right? We go through these periods and these phases because we're meant to be continually evolving people. We're meant to go through, and I've had, when I look back at since I started that business, I've had probably 3 different iterations of how I help people, how I bring my gifts to the world, what that really looks like, because I change and I grow, and what business is going to be most aligned is going to shift and grow, right? I have 2 young girls, so what it means for me to be the present mom that I want to be while also making a big impact in the world in the way I want to make it, that changes as they grow.
Does.
So this is what I love to help people with. It's this
Like
transformation.
finding
Yeah,
the
it's
courage.
how finding the courage, trusting when you feel these feelings, these nudges, these callings, or you just feel stuck. Like, what are the signs that you're ready for a big change? It could just be feeling uninspired, feeling stuck, feeling burnt out. Anytime we're burnt out, that's a sign something big needs to change, right? Whether it's a new job, a new career, a new moving your family to a new city, or reinventing the way that you show up at in your career, in your job. I just wrapped a program with a cohort of women, my Pure Gold program, and the changes that the women experienced, like for each woman, it was such a different thing that she manifested, but it was so beautiful to see, right? One landed a new job. She went from being a top agent at CAA to landing a job heading Mattel's film studios. But what that was really about was she wanted to have full control over her time, the culture, to be able to work from home a couple days, right? And so she manifested a new job that would allow her to then show up in her life differently in a way that serves her, in a way that feels authentic for this version of her. For another woman in the group, she went from 0 to 130,000 followers on TikTok for her manifestation TikTok, because she wants to be the next Brene Brown, the Brene Brown of manifestation. And she's doing it, right? And that took her stepping into a more full and true version of her and sharing her voice. These transformations, it's not like a one size fits all of you have to follow my path. It's about me helping you find what is that next level in your path, right? What is the next chapter for you where you can show up more fully alive, authentic, embodied, and reclaiming the parts of us that oftentimes in parts of our lives we feel like we have to hide or we end up getting disconnected from.
And all the clients that you've worked with, what do you think when does that shift happen? Like even the clients that you were just talking about, the Mattel or the TikTok followers, like what do you find is what they have in common in how they found that transformation shift? Like, is it self-esteem? Is it something that you're physically doing in your body? Is it something that you're journaling? Like what is everyone doing to create that success?
Well, I lead through a framework which is based off the self work that I did and the spiritual journey I moved through. And this is what I bring clients through. But we start with the vision, expanded vision. But the key to that is using things like energy healing, turning on our intuition, because I'll meet people and they say, I don't even know what the vision is. I don't even know what I want. How do I see what's for me? Like, how do I know how to manifest something? I don't even know what I want to manifest, right? And so it's about first tapping in, because big vision, intuitive vision, again, is something that we can open up using things like Reiki and energy healing and resetting our nervous system, and then we do mindset work to help reframe beliefs. We dive into that self exploration using astrology and human design for each individual to learn about them, right? That's why this is not cookie cutter. It's like, who are you? Who are you meant to be in this life? What is the movement you're meant to lead? What are the gifts you're meant to share? What is your voice meant to do in the world? And we learn a lot from the natal chart that really gives a lot of clarity to people, to the women I work with. It also gives them a lot of like permission. Like they get to say, wow, I always thought this way that I was holding me back, but now I see I was trying to fit a square peg in a round hole, right?
Yeah.
And oh my
Yeah.
gosh, no wonder I feel called to this. It's right here in my spiritual DNA of who I'm meant, in my soul DNA of who I'm meant to be. We do activation of our intuition all along the way. We're resetting, our nervous system, doing energy work to help rebalance the whole system so that we can open up your heart and soul to receive more. And we do a lot of healing of the feminine energy, because what I find, I work with all high achieving women who have, had a lot of success in life already. And a lot of the success that we created has been in this masculine world, and this corporate, capitalist industry is very heavily ruled by the masculine energy. So there's a reclamation of our feminine energy that has to happen in order for us as women to fully return home to
Right.
who we are. And that's everything from learning about the way that feminine energy flows in cycles, and just being shifting into the energy of receiving. And another girl in that group, for example, woman in that group, we feel so childlike and fun. But another woman in that group, she's an entrepreneur. She owns a low tox salon in LA. She's opening her second salon, a second location. And she said that the shift that she's had energetically within her, then the way that her whole team is operating when she goes into the salon, like she can see the ripple effects of just the culture changing through the way that she is embodying her feminine, her truth. The she's being the type of leader that she wants to be, that's changing the way women lead in this world, rather than, I'm really passionate about this. I think for so many years, feminism looked like girl bossing and women trying to
Yeah.
compete with men
Yes.
by being like, I can man harder than you, right? I can
Yes.
put on the suit, I can be tough, I can work from 5 to 9 p.m., 5 a.m. to 9 p.m. just as well as you can, man, right? And like, you had to be that boss in a masculine way. And now we are just beginning to see this new wave. People talk about the soft girl era or soft CEO era, but truly we're seeing a wave of, wow, what would it look like for a woman to really lead? What would a feminine CEO look like? What would it look like for a woman to lead, but not by abandoning her femininity and all of who she is, by actually using that? And it looks very different than that masculine CEO, right? So helping women tap into, like, what is that leadership energy that's true for them, that's really going to create change in, whether it's their team at work, whether it's they're starting their own business and in their clients and those people, and the audience that they're going to impact, whether it's just in your family and how you show up by shifting your vibration of who you're being. We're creating ripple effects of change and
There's
bringing about
such
a
a
new
pull
way.
there. I something happened a few weeks ago with my manager, and I want to actually run this by you because we were having correspondence with a big, huge company. And my manager, she's a friend of mine and I love her. And she wrote, sorry for the delay, something with her kids. And I called her and I was like, no, you cannot bring your mother things into this conversation. And she and I had a really interesting conversation. She goes, I completely disagree. I think we need to own the fact that we are humans and we have families, and it's okay not to be accessible at all times to everyone.
Mhm.
And you're right. Like, I think that I'm so ingrained, I like still inside of me, and I have to reprogram that. Like, how can we be CEOs and women and mothers and wives and daughters and partners and friends and all of that at the same time? And I think that we are all trying to juggle that. And what does that look like? And still be quote unquote professional. And I don't know what the answer to that is, to be honest. And I don't even know what that world looks like. But I do believe that there's a shift happening. But, some people are embracing it before others.
Yes. Well, you get to, if you're somebody that's noticing that and you feel called and you feel, wow, I could be the change, right? Like that client that I mentioned who's heading Mattel's film studios. It's like she's literally not only setting the tone for her team, she's about to make films for little girls, all, a whole generation of girls. And think about what she has the opportunity to model of what it means to be a feminine leader, a woman who has a thriving life and a purposeful business and is probably a mother and has kids, and that's very important to her. And it's like we get to define this whole new archetype of what that looks like. That's what excites me so much. But I think you're exactly right. We weren't modeled how to do this, and we have a lot of programming in from society of, oh yes, like okay, don't talk about your kids at work, and just like, right, we don't want to
Right.
complicate things. And I don't know that there's one right way. As with anything, I really would invite you to tune in intuitively about like what are the boundaries you want to set for yourself, and that you want to communicate with, people that work for you, or the culture you want to set. And I don't know that there's one right or wrong way, but I do believe that, I heard a female CEO talk once, and she said something about, there is no way to properly have working hours, and I sign off as mom from this time to this time. She's like, I am in this state of overflow, and it's a constant reprioritization. And if my kid is sick from school, that becomes the priority. And if there's a big launch at work, that becomes the priority. And we will, as women, have to inevitably have some amount of ebb and flow with our work and life. And the faster that we can get comfortable and just be able to like be aware of it and notice where we're at and notice where we need to pull back and where we need to reorient. I think that's part of this amazing, crazy puzzle that we have as working moms to do, right? But I actually love that word overflow, and I use it. I have a membership that I run where I teach on all these concepts in like an easy little monthly call you can join and dip in when you want. And we do healings in there and activations. And I love this word overflow because I think this is really an archetype that is like what I'm leaning into, is this intuitive, iconic woman who's in overflow. It's like she has this thriving business with all this opportunity, and of course there's going to be so many demands and requests and these cool things she wants to do. And she has a thriving family with children and a loving husband and this amazing man, and they want to spend time, and they're going to do vacations and trips and all these things. And it's like almost just trusting that there's so much that what is required of us is to expand our capacity and to trust ourselves to enough to know that we will like catch the ball that we need to in the moment, right? And that like we can trust our own inner compass to guide us to what is needed in a different season. And so yeah, it's a tricky question. I don't know if I answered your question, but
Yeah,
I
no.
want to empower you that you are so not alone, and that like what's right for you and your family. And the deeper that you lean into, yeah, your own inner guidance there, that's really the way.
When you say that you have the member, all of these women that are coming together and doing healing, can healing sessions and even Reiki sessions happen remotely?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
How? How? Because
Oh.
like healing is somebody on top of your body. I've had different healers and different Reiki, but it's somebody sort of hovering over your body. So how can you do that remotely?
So while in an in-person Reiki session, and this is something I did for years, this is one of the iterations of my business. I had my Reiki studio in Topanga at my Topanga Canyon Oasis, and clients that would come see me. I love doing hands-on Reiki. There's an added element of hands-on touch if you do actually hands-on touch, but really Reiki, the energy of Reiki is always non-local. It is not moving through from the fact that my physical hand is there with your physical body. The physical touch is an added benefit. We learn about there are non-local healing modalities. I did my research on this in my master's at Columbia. There are there's a group of various spiritual, energetic, faith healings. They kind of go by many different names. They're non-local, which means they're operating through a different plane of existence than the physical here and now. They're operating, you could call it on the quantum field. So, for example, there's science that shows, like they show healers working on cells, cancer cells from a different room, working remotely on cancer cells, and the cancer shrinks. Right. And they don't have to hold, I mean, even the fact that they could hold anything and cancer could shrink is insane, but they can actually work remotely on cancer cells and the cancer can shrink, because when you learn energy healing, we begin to open into what now science can also explain, is the fact that this universe operates in a way that isn't really what we like see and feel and touch. We know that this table that's right here that feels hard, it's actually a collection of atoms, which are actually just collections of little packets of energy. So
Right.
how we experience the world most of the time, 99% of the time, that's actually really only experiencing 1% of the truth of what's really here in the universe. We are actually floating in a sea of energy all the time. There is no clear distinction between where my skin ends, where the air begins. If I'm working on you, it's through intention that we link up. And we know this also from quantum um, mechanics, that two particles at a great distance that were once linked and that at a great distance will still behave the same way, even when they're miles, hundreds of thousands of miles apart. It's like magic. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. But I see it as beginning to paint the picture of what energy healers know from their own experience, from the real live sessions and transformations and healings that happen, but we're connecting through intention. I'm working on your body remotely. And I also like to guide clients by really empowering them to tune in with their own intuition and what's going on in their own body, right? So it's also leading by example of it's not just me, it's not just everybody sitting back and I'm just sending Reiki through the screen at them, which we also can do. But I make it this whole, mind, body, spirit experience. So it's okay, maybe we tap in and, can Sabrina, can you become aware of the, your heart space, and maybe becoming aware of the energy of the heart space, and maybe as you breathe, maybe you begin to feel the energy in the heart begin to expand, right? As if with every breath, you can feel this expanse in the chest. And what we're doing there is we're working on your heart chakra, but I'm also getting you involved as well. So I like to kind of do it that way because I'm also teaching as I heal. I'm teaching those in my sphere how they can tap in and work with these energies on their own as well, because it is so intuitive, right?
Yeah. For anyone listening, obviously in the notes, I will have all of Grace's information and how you can join into this program that she's doing. Do you also believe, well, in the Reiki, do you work with people one-on-one now, just without the program?
Now, my one-on-ones are all kind of like a VIP level, so I'll do one-on-ones. Yes, I do, but it's a little bit more like mentorship with my high-level clients that want to work one-on-one with me. We're committing to 3 months, 6 months working together so that we can really move through transformation.
Yeah.
And like that's just the type of work that I selfishly feel really fulfilled by, is getting to build a relationship with someone, help them move through these transitions in life and step into a new chapter and feel empowered and really take the action, right? So it's this kind of healing and coaching combined. But with those clients, I will do healings with them. And I also have amazing healers in my community. I ran a Reiki studio where I had two healers that worked for me, and I'm still very close with them. So if anybody wants a Reiki session, I got you. I can get you hooked up with somebody. But I'm really passionate about working, in a more yeah, I like working with
More
people
of
full
a
time.
container rather than
Yeah.
a one-off. And I can attest that Grace actually does read her DMs because I DM'd you and you got back to me pretty quickly. One last thing before we go. I obviously there's a whole um spiritual aspect to your coaching, but when you're working with people, especially in a workshop or a program, are there certain things that you ask them to do physically to change their vibration, like whether what they eat, what they drink, what they watch, what they listen to? Are there any sort of recipes for success that you give clients?
Oh, my favorite recipe, this is so simple, so easy, but it's like such a game changer, is just getting outside, walking in nature. If you want free energy healing, if you want a free reset to your central nervous system and like the quickest instant reset that is available to almost anyone, almost anywhere, is like I think now they say, aren't they, isn't it a thing now with like Gen Z? It's like touch grass. I think that's a thing. But but I've been telling people to do this for like 10 years. I'm like, go outside, take your shoes off, put your feet in the grass, walk around. I think of so I'm so passionate about energetic work because when we change, like you said, when we're changing the body, the mind, the heart, and the emotions all at once, that's when you can really quantum leap into a new state of being and really change the life around you instantly. So, something that, of course, sound baths, people know about sound baths, of course, Reiki, I love Reiki, but like nature is our OG energy healer. There's science that shows how much it resets our nervous system. It draws free electrons out of our body, so it grounds our system, like quite literally. If you know anything about electrical engineering, like it's literally the ground is when you have to ground a circuit, it's into the earth, and we are
Right.
circuits that need to be grounded. So that's something I love to invite people to do. But yeah, in my programs, people kind of intuitively check in on like where they need to make changes, and it is a little bit specialized to the individual. But we do a lot of mindset work looking at what beliefs are holding them back and then how to reframe those. So, a lot of consciousness of your thinking and what you're saying and what stories you're telling, what narratives you're telling, and how you can rewrite those, right? Because you're nodding along because you know it's true. Like the way
Yes.
that you frame the story of what is happening to you and what you want, where you're going, where you came from, like you get to craft the story of your life. And I mean, we're like directors and writers and creators of our life movie. And so you get to, yeah, you can really direct that with a little bit of intention and awareness.
Grace, thank you so much. I have to have you back on.
I love
I
that.
appreciate it. Hopefully, I could even do a session with you. For
That would be
anyone listening, if you're driving, walking, hiking, whatever you're doing, I will have all of Grace's information in the show notes. You will be back on again, but thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.